All right, moving on to step 2, if you've recovered. I have already gone through and taken off the 6 pieces of H20 and the 6 pieces of H9 and produced them into 6 pieces like that. I like to lay all my parts out once I have taken them off the sprue and cleaned them up, just so then you can kind of see how they're laid out. And I know if I'm missing something, or if something doesn't have a number, or something like that. So let's work with this. Start from front, work my way back. So while I'm also working on stuff, sometimes you'll get to see this. I'll try and keep it in the view. Sometimes you won't. I tend to use Testors model glue, liquid model glue. It's just what I prefer. I have a homemade 3D printed glue bottle holder, I guess. So just apply some liquid to the part. Make sure that everything sits right. And I've got the front on. And then, because there's so many different places, I'm always double, triple checking, is this the right spot for this? Yes, this is where J32 goes. So I dry fit it real quick, put a little glue on it, and there it is. Same with the other side. Now, some people will complain about, oh, there are so many parts. So many parts. I mean, for crying out loud, the first, these first 2 steps, these very first 2 steps have approximately 98 parts going on by the time we reach here. And that's busy. I mean, there are tons of other kits that don't have that. But on the other hand, you get this detail of a very complicated piece of machinery. So, what's going to be the trade-off? How much reduction in detail do you want for buildability? And that's kind of where all your different model companies kind of gravitate. Is Tamiya believes a lot more in buildability than in absolute detail, so they kind of cheat around the edges a little bit, if you want to call it that, to make sub-assemblies less detailed or less complicated. But with that, you get less detail. And if you're happy with that, there's no problem with that. But the other downside is Tamiya doesn't make an M1070 kit, so kind of have to go with what's available as well and work your way from there. So there aren't any real tricks with this particular step, other than me getting used to sitting here talking to my camera as I'm doing this. And once I've got, see, I don't use a lot of excessive glue. I know where the contact points are. I put some glue in there, and then I'll go back and look at where there might be some other little points and let the capillary action suck it in. I don't want a lot of mess. And if I'm not careful, then you end up with like a small fingerprint down here. So I can take, since I know I did that, I can take a little bit of the liquid, run it in there to smooth it out. Now I've got to be extra careful at this point to make sure that I don't put my finger there, but I'm slowly trying to work my way back while keeping from sticking my fingers in it. And also remember, even though, for example, these parts here look the same, they are different. That's important to remember. Make sure that you've got them oriented correctly before you glue them on. A little bit of extra care now will save you a ton of heartache later on. Ask me how I know. And I'm just doing my best at this point to eyeball the joints. Now I want to get good solid joints in the glue areas, but I do know that since we're working with plastic, and this is one of the reasons why I like working with plastic, if I put a part on here and it's just a little off square when I go to put the cab on, one way or the other, I know that I can adjust it and the plastic will bend, or I can carefully try to remove the part from what it's glued to adjust it. It's not like resin where I'm afraid I'm gonna snap it, break it, do whatever, but I am trying to get a general square feel for it. And why not wait until I have the cab made so I can put it on solid? Well, because then I'm building out of sequence, and what if I don't make the cab square? Now, the nice thing about this is that you saw me just messing around with F36 and F6 here. This goes right on top of it, so I can square it up once I get it on. And if it's a little tight, you know, don't force it too much. Do your best to locate. Now it locates in like so. It should stick up a little bit off of the frame like that. Looks good. I put it in dry. Now I'm letting the capillary action pull the glue in there to get this going. Not too much glue, but I want to make sure it's going to stay. And then moving on, we have these 6 pieces right here to put in. These go on the outside like so, and like so. So, knowing that they'll fit, that I didn't get anything in the way from other parts, I don't have to adjust anything. Put some glue on, grab a part, stick it on, grab a part, stick it on, grab a part, stick it on. Now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I know that this part goes there. I'm going to make an assumption that this is going to work out just fine. And I'll put this on here. Let's see what happens. That's fine. Thankfully that's fine. And that's fine. Now, is there really going to be a problem if it hadn't been fine? Well, no, but then you have to mess around with avoiding the glue while at the same time trying to adjust things. Now I'm going through, like I said, putting a little extra glue on there for that surface to be pulled in with a little capillary action so that we can get this particular step, this sub-assembly within step 2 done. And so now I've got the parts on. I can carefully put it down, let it dry a little bit. I'm going to get my parts for my next sub-assembly ready to go.